The night sky above the alien city glowed with strange neon colors, sharp lights cutting through the smoke that hung heavy in the air. The marketplace was alive with noise, cries of sellers and laughter of cruel buyers mixing together. At the center of this chaos stood the grand auction hall, a place where dignity was stripped and lives were sold. Inside, rows of alien bidders sat in wide arcs, their eyes shining with greed and curiosity. On the stage, under the harsh blue lights, stood a young alien girl. Her wrists and ankles were locked in glowing cuffs, chains pulling her small frame into stillness. She looked no older than 16 in human years. Her skin shimmered faintly like silver dust, and her eyes, large and bright, carried both fear and shame. She trembled as the auctioneer shouted her description. "She is obedient, exotic, and will bring entertainment," the alien announcer declared with a booming voice. His sharp teeth flashed as he grinned. He tugged at the chain to make her stumble forward. The crowd laughed, pointing and jeering. For them, she was not a person. She was a thing to be owned. The girl's heart pounded in her chest. She wanted to scream, to run, but her voice was trapped in her throat. She had been told again and again that she was worthless, that her kind was meant to serve, that resistance only brought more pain. So she stood silent and broken, while strangers judged her like an object. "Starting bid, 100 credits, the auctioneer barked. Hands rose in the crowd. Voices shouted numbers. The bidding grew. Some aliens boasted of how they would dress her, or how they would make her kneel. Laughter rolled like thunder. Each word felt like another knife in her chest. The girl's eyes scanned the crowd, desperate for a single kind face. But everywhere she looked, there was only hunger, cruelty, and amusement. Her breath shook, and tears burned at the corners of her eyes. She thought of the past, the day she was taken from her family, the years spent in cages, the countless times she was told she was nothing. Tonight would be no different. She would be bought, used, humiliated. Suddenly, the door at the back of the hall opened with a heavy thud. A tall figure stepped inside. The chatter softened. Eyes turned. It was a human. His presence was unusual, rare. Humans were not often seen in these markets. Some in the crowd whispered, some laughed. The man walked with calm steps. His boots echoed on the metallic floor. His face was shadowed by the dim light, but his eyes burned with something different. Not greed, not cruelty, but something steady. He looked at the girl on stage, and in that moment, she felt his gaze pierce through the chains around her. The auctioneer cleared his throat, annoyed by the silence. "Do we have more bids?" 400 credits offered, he called. But the human raised his hand slowly. His voice was calm. 500? The hall buzzed with shock. What would a human want with a pet? Someone sneered. Another laughed. Perhaps he is stranger than us all. The bidding continued, voices pushing higher. The human never flinched, never broke his gaze from the girl. At last the room fell quiet. No one dared to push further. The auctioneer's smile faltered, but business was business. He slammed his gavel. "Sold," he declared. Sold to the human. The girl's knees trembled, her heart raced with confusion. This was worse, she thought. A human had bought her. She had heard whispers. Humans were unpredictable, dangerous. Some said they could be kind. But she had never seen kindness, not once. Her mind screamed that this was just another trap. The chains pulled as the auctioneer shoved her toward her new master. She stumbled, nearly falling. The human reached out, not to strike her, but to catch her. His grip was firm, steady, and strangely gentle. The crowd muttered in surprise. She dared to look up at him. His eyes were not cold. They carried no hunger. Instead, they carried something she had forgotten long ago. Recognition. As if he saw her not as a thing, but as a person. The hall erupted in laughter and mocking cheers. "Enjoy your new toy, human," someone shouted. The auctioneer grinned. "Take her away. She is yours to break." But as he guided her away from the stage, she felt the weight of his words. Not a command, not an insult. He had said nothing. But his silence was louder than any cruelty. She shivered, trapped between terror and an unfamiliar spark of hope. Was this human truly different? Or was this the beginning of another nightmare? The answer hid in the shadows of the night, and in the unspoken promise in the human's eyes. The girl's feet dragged against the metal floor as she was led away from the auction stage. Her wrists still carried the glowing cuffs, the chains rattling with every step. The crowd behind them jeered and shouted insults. Some laughed, some cursed, and others whispered about the strange human who dared to spend so much on something they thought worthless. The human walked ahead, calm and silent. He did not seem bothered by the noise. He did not hurry, nor did he slow. His steady steps gave off a quiet strength. The girl dared to glance at him. Her heart still pounded with fear. She waited for the moment he would turn on her, the moment his hand would strike her as every master before him had done. They reached a dim hallway that led outside. The noise of the auction hall faded behind them. For the first time in years, silence surrounded her. She shivered, her body weak from hunger and fear. She stumbled, and the chain pulled her down to her knees. The human stopped. He turned, his eyes calm. Instead of shouting, he knelt down. His hand touched the chain. A small device in his palm glowed. And with a sharp click, the cuffs opened. The glowing metal fell away, landing on the ground with a dull clang. The girl froze. Her wide eyes stared at him in disbelief. No master had ever done this. Freedom was forbidden. She rubbed her raw wrists, the skin red and bruised. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Why?" The human looked at her for a long moment. His voice was steady and low. "Because you are not a thing." She did not understand. The words did not make sense. She shook her head quickly. I am property," she whispered. Her voice trembled. "That is what they told me." His gaze hardened. "They lied," he said. He stood tall and unshaken. "You are alive." "That is enough." Her heart twisted with confusion. No one had ever spoken to her like this. She searched his face for cruelty, for mockery, but found none. Only quiet strength, only truth. They stepped outside into the cold night air. The alien city stretched wide, with lights glowing like fireflies against the dark sky. The air smelled of smoke and metal. The streets were crowded, filled with strange faces and sharper eyes. The girl pressed close to the human, not from trust but from fear of being taken again. Whispers followed them. Some aliens sneered, others pointed. A few laughed openly. "Look at him," one said. "He freed her already, foolish human," another hissed. "He does not know. She will betray him." "All slaves do." The girl lowered her head, shame burning in her chest. She wanted to speak, to tell him they were right, that she was nothing but trouble, yet her voice refused to leave her lips. The human guided her into a narrow street where a small ship rested. Its silver hull was scratched and dented, not grand, not rich, but strong and alive. The ramp lowered with a hiss. He gestured for her to follow. She hesitated. Her heart whispered warnings. If she entered, she would be trapped again, but outside, the city was filled with eyes that saw her only as a prize. For a moment, she stood between chains of the past and a door into the unknown. Slowly, with trembling legs, she stepped inside. The ship's interior was plain. Metal walls, dim lights, a soft hum from the engines. But unlike the cages she once knew, this place felt different. There were no bars, no locks, no sharp whips hanging on the wall. Instead, there were simple chairs, a table and shelves filled with tools. The human closed the ramp and looked at her. "Sit," he said. His tone was not sharp, not commanding. It was soft, like a request. She obeyed, lowering herself onto the chair, her body tense, ready for punishment if she did wrong. Moments later, he placed a plate in front of her. Real food, warm and steaming. The scent filled the air. She stared at it, confused. No master had ever given her food first. She always ate scraps, always last. He sat across from her, lifting his own plate. "Eat," he said simply. Her hands shook as she reached out. She picked up a piece and placed it in her mouth. Her eyes widened. It was not poisoned, not spoiled. It was rich and full of flavor. Her body cried for more, and she ate faster and faster until shame slowed her down. She looked up at him, afraid, expecting anger. But he only watched quietly, his eyes not mocking, not cruel, but almost proud when she finished. Her hands dropped to her lap. Her voice was small. "Why do you do this?" she asked. "I was sold to you. I'm supposed to serve." "Not be served." The human leaned forward, his voice calm and certain. "You are not a pet," he said, his words heavy with meaning. "You are not property. You are free, as long as you walk with me." Her heart stumbled. Free. The word echoed in her mind. It felt impossible. Too big. Too unreal. Yet in his eyes she saw no lie. In that moment, fear and hope clashed inside her chest. She did not yet trust him. She could not. But for the first time since her chains were locked, she felt the smallest spark of something new. Perhaps, just perhaps, this human's choice was not madness, but mercy. The small ship hummed gently as it drifted above the alien city. Inside the cabin, the air smelled of warm food. The girl sat at the table, her eyes wide with confusion. Her hands rested on her lap, fingers twisting nervously. She could still taste the meal he had given her earlier, rich and real. The memory of flavor lingered on her tongue like something forbidden. The human sat across from her, calm and steady. He moved without hurry, placing another plate before her. This time it held fruit, strange round pieces glowing faintly. She stared at them, uncertain. Her stomach twisted with hunger. But her mind whispered warnings. Masters had tricked her before. They gave food only to punish her later. He spoke softly. "It is safe. Eat." His voice carried no command, only reassurance. She hesitated, then picked one fruit with trembling fingers. Slowly she brought it to her mouth. The sweetness burst across her tongue. Her eyes widened again. A sound escaped her lips. Small and almost forgotten, it was the sound of delight. The human smiled faintly, not mocking, not cruel, but genuine. The sight made her chest tighten with something she did not understand. She looked away quickly, ashamed of showing weakness. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. He leaned back, his gaze steady on her. "What is your name?" he asked. The question struck her harder than chains ever had. Her head snapped up, her lips parted, but no sound came. Name? It had been years since anyone asked her that. Years since she had spoken it. Masters never cared to them. She was pet, slave, or worse. Her name had been buried, lost beneath layers of shame. Her voice cracked as she whispered, I do not have one anymore." The human's brows drew together, his eyes softened. "Then I will give you one," he said calmly. She froze, her chest heavy. "Give me," she stammered, "a name." "Yes," he answered. "You are not a thing, you deserve a name." Her breath shook. She wanted to laugh at the foolishness, to scream that names meant nothing. But deep inside, something fragile stirred. A memory of her mother's voice calling her long ago. A memory of warmth before the cages. Her eyes stung with tears. He thought for a moment, his gaze never leaving hers. Then he spoke. "Leora," he said slowly. "It means light." The word filled the air like a spark. Her heart clenched. She pressed her hand to her chest, as if holding the sound inside. "Leora?" she repeated softly. Her voice shook, but the name felt alive. It was hers, not stolen, not forced. For the first time in years, she felt seen. She lowered her eyes, hiding the tears that fell. He did not mock her. He simply nodded once. As if sealing a silent promise, the ship hummed on, carrying them through the endless night outside. The galaxy stretched wide and merciless, but inside the cabin there was a fragile peace. Later, he rose and moved to a small storage compartment. He returned with a blanket, worn but clean. He draped it gently over her shoulders. She flinched at first, expecting pain, but the warmth sank into her skin. She clutched it tightly. Her body shook with emotions she could not name. He sat again, quiet, giving her space. The silence was not heavy, not cruel, it was calm. For the first time, silence felt safe. Her eyes studied him in secret. His rough hands scarred from work, his steady posture. The way his eyes did not burn with hunger, but with patience. He was unlike any master she had known. Her mind screamed not to trust, but her heart whispered that perhaps she could. She whispered softly, barely audible. "Why are you doing this?" He looked at her, his voice steady. "Because no one deserves chains." Her throat tightened. She wanted to argue, to tell him she was different, that she had no worth, but the words refused to come. The truth in his voice broke the walls inside her. That night, for the first time in countless years, she slept without fear, wrapped in the blanket, full from food, and holding the new name close to her heart. Yet even as sleep claimed her, doubt remained. Could this human truly mean what he said? Or was this kindness only another illusion that would shatter with time? Still in the darkness, she whispered her name again, soft and fragile. "Leora." And for the first time, she dared to believe that maybe, just maybe, she was more than a pet. The ship drifted quietly through the endless black of space. The engines hummed like a soft lullaby, and the stars outside shone brighter than the neon lights of the cruel city they had left behind. Inside the cabin, the girl, Leora now, sat at the small table, wrapped in the blanket he had given her. She clutched it as if it was the most precious treasure in the universe. The human moved around the ship with practiced ease. His hands adjusted switches, pressed controls, and checked readings. His movements were calm, steady, and unhurried. Leora watched him silently. Her mind kept asking the same question. Why had he chosen to free her? Why treat her differently when everyone else had called her worthless? She remembered the auction hall, the laughter, the chains, the mocking voices. She remembered the cruel masters who had used her before. To them she was never a person, but here in this small ship, she was given food, warmth, and even a name. When the human noticed her watching, he spoke gently. "Come here," he said. His voice held no sharpness. She hesitated, but stood slowly. Her bare feet touched the cold metal floor as she walked to his side. He pointed at the wide window of the cockpit. "Look," he said. The stars stretched across the black void, clusters glowing like scattered jewels. A nearby planet swirled with clouds. Glowing faintly against the darkness, her breath caught in her throat. She had seen stars before through the bars of a cage, but never like this. Never free. Never standing beside someone who did not mock her awe. "They are beautiful," she whispered. Her voice trembled, afraid the word itself might break the fragile moment. The human nodded. "Yes," he said softly. "And so are you, Leora." Her heart stumbled. Her chest tightened. She looked at him quickly. But his eyes were calm, not filled with mockery or hunger. He spoke the words as if they were truth. For a moment she did not know how to breathe. The days that followed moved slowly. Each one felt different from the years of pain she had known. The human showed her small things, how to hold a tool, how to press the right button to open a door, how to pour water without spilling. To her, these were lessons of freedom. Every small act reminded her that she was no longer in chains. He never raised his hand against her. He never shouted cruel words. When she made mistakes, he corrected her gently. His patience confused her. Sometimes she would wait for punishment. Her body stiff and ready, but it never came. Instead, his voice would guide her again. Calm and steady at night, he told her stories of Earth, of oceans so wide they touched the horizon, of forests filled with green life, of mountains that stood tall against the sky. She listened with wide eyes, her imagination painting pictures of places far beyond her cruel memories. "Do humans chain each other?" she asked one night. Her voice quiet, afraid of the answer. He shook his head firmly. "Not like this," he said. "On Earth we make mistakes, but we do not sell children. We do not call them pets." His eyes burned with quiet anger. "No one should suffer what you did." Tears stung her eyes. She turned away, clutching the blanket tighter. His words felt like fire and comfort at the same time. One morning, she found a mirror fixed to the wall near the washroom. She froze, staring at her reflection. Her face was thin, her eyes too large, her silver-tinted skin marked with faint scars. For years she had hated this sight. It was proof of her weakness, proof of what made her different, but now, when she whispered her new name, Leora, her reflection did not look like a pet. It looked like someone trying to rise again. Her fingers touched the glass, trembling. Later that day, she gathered courage to ask him, "Why did you call me family?" He looked at her, his face calm, his voice steady. "Because family means no chains, family means someone who stays." No matter what, her heart quivered. The word family was heavy. It felt too big for her small, broken self. Yet she longed for it. She wanted to believe she could belong. But doubt still lived in her chest. She wondered if this kindness would end. If one day he would grow tired of her. That fear whispered to her each night as she lay wrapped in the blanket. Still, every morning, when he greeted her with a gentle nod and placed food before her, the fear grew a little smaller, and the spark inside her grew brighter, step by step, day by day. Leora began to learn what it meant to be human, not in skin or in blood, but in kindness, in patience, and in the strange, powerful gift of being treated as more than nothing. And though she still carried scars of the past, she began to wonder if perhaps, just perhaps, she could carry hope as well. The ship floated through the deep silence of space. Leora sat near the wide cockpit window, her eyes fixed on the stars. Each day with the human had been different from the years of cruelty she had endured. He gave her food, warmth, and even a name. For the first time in her life, she felt something close to safety. Yet safety in the galaxy was fragile, and shadows always found their way back. One evening, the human checked the ship's systems with a serious expression, his brow furrowed as he read signals flashing across the console. Leora tilted her head, sensing the change in his calm. "What is wrong?" she asked softly. He did not look up. His voice was steady but firm. "We are being followed." Her chest tightened. Fear rushed into her like cold water. She pressed her hands to the blanket around her shoulders. "Who?" she whispered. The human's jaw hardened. "Your former master?" The words stabbed through her heart. Her breath quickened. The memories of chains, whips, and laughter came back like fire. She shook her head violently. "No, please. I cannot go back." Her voice broke. He turned his eyes toward her, his gaze steady and unshaken. "You will not," he said. His tone carried no doubt, no hesitation, but Leora's body trembled. She remembered the cruelty of that alien master. His greed, his sharp smile. He had lost money the night of the auction. He had lost power, and now he would not let that insult pass. Moments later, a shadow fell across the stars. A large vessel loomed behind them. Its black hull bristled with weapons. A cruel insignia glowed red against the metal. The master had come, and he had brought hunters with him. A voice crackled over the comm. Sharp and mocking. "Human," it sneered. "You stole my property. Return the girl, and perhaps I will let you live." Leora shrank back. Her hands clutched the chair tightly. She expected him to give her up. It was the only way. No one risked their life for a slave. Not in this galaxy, but the human's voice was calm. "She is not property," he answered. His words rang like iron. "And I will not return her." The comm burst with cruel laughter. "Then prepare to die," the alien snarled. The large ship moved closer, shadows swallowing the small vessel. Leora's heart pounded. She wanted to scream, to beg him to surrender her. Her life was not worth his. She whispered, "Please give me back. You cannot fight them." Tears burned her eyes. He turned to her, his face calm, his voice firm. "Leora, look at me." She lifted her tear-stained eyes. "I told you before, you are not a thing. You are family." Her chest shook. The word burned through her. Fear, family. She wanted to believe it, but the massive ship outside felt like proof that kindness could not survive in a cruel galaxy. The human's fingers danced over the controls. The engines roared. His ship twisted sharply. Dodging the first blast of fire, bright light streaked past the cockpit window. Shaking the hull, Leora cried out. Gripping the seat, the chase began. The larger ship thundered behind them, weapons spitting bolts of energy. The small vessel darted and rolled, the human's hands steady as stone. He did not panic, his eyes remained sharp. Each movement precise still. The enemy vessel was stronger, faster and merciless. Every blast rattled the cabin. Leora's body shook with fear. She felt useless, helpless. She thought of the chains, the cuffs, the laughter of the crowd. Perhaps it was destiny to be dragged back. The comm sparked again. "You cannot win." "Human," the master's cruel voice hissed. "Give me the girl. She belongs to me." The human's jaw clenched, his voice thundered with rare anger. "She belongs to no one." Leora's eyes widened. Her breath caught. No one had ever spoken for her like that. No one had ever denied her chains. The words burned through her despair, lighting a fragile fire in her heart. The ship shook violently as another blast struck the hull. Alarms screamed, lights flickered. Leora cried out. "We cannot escape." But the human reached over, his hand gripping hers firmly. His voice cut through the chaos, calm and strong. "Trust me." Her trembling slowed under his touch. His hand was steady, warm, for the first time. She felt her fear bend beneath his certainty. She whispered, I trust you." With a sudden burst of power, he twisted the ship into a dense asteroid field. The enemy vessel followed, but its massive size made it slow. Each asteroid became a shield, each turn a narrow escape. The human's skill shone like fire in the dark. Still, the danger was far from over. The enemy ship thundered behind, closing the distance again. Leora's heart pounded as she clutched the blanket tighter. She knew the fight was not finished. Her old master would not stop. He would come again stronger, but one truth remained. Stronger than fear, stronger than change, she was no longer alone. The human had chosen her not as property, not as a pet, but as family. And though the shadows of the past reached for her, she knew now that someone would stand between her and the chains. The ship shook as another blast rattled against its shields. Leora clung to the edge of her seat, her heart pounding like thunder. The asteroid field outside spun with danger. Jagged rocks drifting through the dark. Each turn, each dive felt like it might be the last. The human's hands moved swiftly over the controls. His jaw was set, his eyes locked on the path ahead. He guided the ship through the deadly maze as if the stars themselves whispered directions to him. Leora could not look away. Even in the chaos, he never faltered. The comm crackled again, the master's voice filled with rage. You cannot run forever, human. That girl is mine. She was sold, paid for, and chained. She is property. Leora's breath caught. Her eyes burned with tears. The cruel words dragged her back into memories. Cold cages and jeering laughter. The master's voice was the sound of her nightmares. But then the human's voice thundered back, strong and unshaken. She is not property, he said. His words cut through the noise of the battle like a blade. She is not a pet, not a slave. She is family. Leora froze. Her heart stopped for a moment. Family. The word rang inside her chest, brighter than the blinding flashes outside the ship. She turned toward him, her lips parted, but no words came. The comm fell silent for a heartbeat, then erupted in mocking laughter. Family? The master sneered. Do not make me laugh, she is a worthless creature. Broken and trained to kneel, she will never be anything more. Leora's body trembled. Part of her believed the cruel words. The scars on her wrists, the years of chains. They whispered the same thing. But when she looked at the human's face, she saw no doubt his eyes burned with truth. Not pity, not weakness, but certainty. The enemy vessel loomed larger. Closing the distance, its weapons glowed, ready to strike again. The human's voice roared across the comm. If you want her, you will have to kill me first, Leora gasped. Her heart twisted painfully. No one had ever said such words for her. No one had ever stood in the way of the chains. She pressed her hand to her chest, her body shaking for the first time. She felt what it meant to be protected, not because of what she could give, but because of who she was. The master snarled over the comm, then die. Human, the enemy ship fired. A searing blast shook the cabin. Alarms screamed, lights flickered, smoke rose from the console. The human coughed but stayed firm. His hands never left the controls. His voice calm despite the chaos. Hold on. Leora! She clutched the chair, her mind torn between terror and awe. Even as fire threatened to consume them, he fought not for himself but for her. With a sudden twist, he maneuvered the ship between two massive asteroids. The enemy vessel tried to follow, but its size betrayed it. The sharp edge of an asteroid scraped against its hull. Tearing metal apart, sparks and fire lit the void. The master's voice returned. Furious, you will not escape me, she belongs to me. She always will. But the human shouted over the comm, louder than the thunder of explosions. No, she belongs with no master. She belongs only with those who see her as family. And that is me, the word family echoed again. Stronger this time, not just spoken but declared. It carried weight, it carried power. Leora's tears spilled freely. She whispered it to herself, tasting it like the sweetest fruit. Family. The sound broke the chains inside her more than the device on her wrists ever had. The enemy vessel faltered, pulling back from the asteroid field. The master's rage echoed through the comm one last time before cutting off. The stars grew silent again. Only the hum of the damaged ship remained. Leora turned toward the human, her body trembling. Her voice broke as she whispered, Why do you fight for me? Why risk everything? He looked at her, his eyes steady, his voice calm. Because you are worth fighting for, Leora. Because no one deserves to live as chains, because family is worth any risk. Her heart shattered and rebuilt in the same moment. She covered her face with trembling hands, sobs breaking free. Not of fear, but of something she had thought long dead. Hope for the first time she believed him. The word family no longer felt like a dream. It felt real, it felt alive. She looked at him again, her voice small but strong. Then I will be family. The human nodded, his voice soft but proud. You already are. The stars outside stretched wide, endless and merciless, but inside that small ship, a bond had been forged stronger than chains. Stronger than fear, Leora was no longer a pet. No longer a slave, she was family. And she swore never to forget the human who had spoken the word that set her free. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a vast sea of light and shadow. The ship's engines hummed softly. Though the damage from the fight still hissed in the corners of the cabin, sparks flickered, smoke lingered, but inside, there was a quiet that felt different. Leora sat in the chair near the cockpit window, her blanket wrapped tightly around her shoulders. Her silver-tinted skin glowed faintly under the dim lights. Her eyes were still red from tears, but they no longer held only fear. They carried something new, something fragile yet powerful, hope. The human moved carefully through the cabin, checking wires, pressing buttons, and repairing what he could. His hands were scarred, his face tired, but his movements were steady. He carried the same calm he had shown since the first moment she saw him. It was the calm that had pulled her out of chains. She watched him in silence, her heart heavy with emotions she could not name. At last she spoke softly. "You almost died for me." Her voice cracked, heavy with guilt. "I am not worth it." He looked at her, his eyes steady. "You are," he said firmly. "You are worth more than the credits they sold you for. You are worth more than the lies they told you. You are worth more because you are alive, because you are family." Her chest tightened. Tears welled in her eyes again. She lowered her head, whispering, "Family," tasting the word like it was the rarest treasure in the galaxy. The days that followed were quiet but full of change. The human taught her how to read simple signs on the console, how to press the right switches, and how to prepare simple meals. Each lesson was small, but to her, they were doors opening to a world she had never known. She learned how to laugh again, soft at first, then brighter one evening. While she clumsily tried to fix a wire, the spark snapped and she yelped, jumping back. The human chuckled quietly and she found herself laughing too. The sound felt strange in her throat, but it was real. At night, she sometimes woke from nightmares. Memories of chains, the auction hall, the cruel voice of her old master each time. She would sit trembling in the dark, but the human's voice would reach her, calm and steady. "You are safe, Leora. No one will take you again." Slowly, the nightmares loosened their grip one morning. As the ship drifted through a new system, Leora pressed her forehead against the cold glass of the window. Her eyes widened at the sight below, an emerald green planet filled with forests, rivers shining like silver veins under the sun. "Is that Earth?" she whispered. The human smiled faintly. "No, not Earth, but another world still. Maybe one day. I will take you there." Her heart leapt at the thought. A place where she could walk without fear. Where no chains existed, she imagined oceans, forests, skies unbroken by cages for the first time. The future did not feel like a punishment. It felt like a promise. Later, as they shared a small meal together, she set her food down and looked at him seriously. Her voice trembled but was strong. "I want to stay. I want to be with you, not because you freed me, but because you called me family." His eyes softened. His voice was steady. "Then stay, Leora. Stay as long as you wish. Family is not given and taken away. Family is chosen, and I choose you." Her heart burst with warmth. She covered her face with her hands, laughing and crying at once. The sound filled the cabin like music. For years, she had lived believing she was nothing. For years, her name had been buried, her spirit chained, but now, with a single word and a single human, she had been reborn. She whispered softly, "I am Leora. I am not a pet. I am not property. I am family." The human reached across the table, resting his hand gently over hers. His eyes met hers, calm and certain. "Yes, you are family." The ship hummed onward through the stars, carrying them toward unknown worlds and endless skies. Behind them lay cages, markets, and cruelty. Ahead of them lay freedom, hope, and something stronger than any chain. For the galaxy was wide, cruel, and filled with shadows. But as long as she walked beside him, Leora knew she was no longer lost. She was not a slave, not a pet. She was family. And with that truth burning inside her, she stepped into her new beginning.